in that massacre, renewing calls for gun control this past week. This coming after authorities said that 12 of the nearly 24 rifles found in Paddock's hotel room used so-called bump stocks, which is an accessory that allows semi-automatic weapons to fire like automatic weapons. The White House is now signaling that it would be open to regulating bump stocks, and so is the National Rifle Association. In a statement, the NRA says this: devices designed to allow semi-automatic rifles to function like fully automatic rifles should be subject to additional regulations. The group's CEO, Wayne LaPerry, weighed in last night on Hannity, saying that the massacre has been politicized.
The other side, on the other hand, has been so outright trying to politicize this tragedy that we did feel the need to speak out today on this whole bump stock issue. For years, have tried to correct the media on semi-automatics when they said they were fully automatic firearms, when Dianne Feinstein and Schumer and all the rest of them said they were machine guns. For years, I set the record straight.
Joining us right now is former White House National Security Council member under President George W. Bush and President Obama, and Fox News contributor Gillian Turner. Gillian, good to see you. Thanks for weighing in here. And in June of 2010, 18 months into President Obama's first term, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms approved the use of these bump stocks. What do you think about these devices?
My big prediction here is that all of this is going to go nowhere, because if you've been following, as I know you have, this issue over the last 48-hour cycle, the direction we're already going in is a bureaucratic fight over who even has jurisdiction and who can make and set policy on these devices that actually has an impact for the American people. So, for example, congressional leaders on both sides of the aisle have come forward and said they're open to the idea of at least holding hearings to learn more about these devices as kind of a prelude to regulating them. The NRA, as you just talked about, and is also maybe signaling they're open to this. But the undercurrent here is that these same members who are already speaking out on this issue are already claiming that this is actually more in the jurisdictional line of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, ATF, which is an executive branch department and agency. So what I see here is more of Congress doing what it's best at, which is kicking the can down the road, denying responsibility, and turning the issue over to the... We're going to see a fight between the executive branch and Congress over who needs to regulate this, and no one will actually do anything.
I think it was...
So there's not even... I think this is going nowhere.
I think that it was a good sign to hear the NRA say it should be subject to additional regulations, only because it's the lack of ideology. There's a lack of ideology, and there's a whiff of compromise, which bodes well.
But it does seem like we're just coalescing around the bump stocks, and it's all become about this now. And maybe even something...
And P.S., we just sold... Not we. The two companies that manufacture these things sold like 1 million of them in the last 2 days. There's none left. So what are you going to regulate?
So they sell
that
out.
Millions of Americans already have in their homes?
Yeah, and then you get a deal on it. Everyone says, well, look at the victory here. But have we really done anything fundamental to change the dynamics of guns in this country, or the problem, or whatever you want to say? It just seems like a very symbolic political class thing, not a substantive thing.
And they're not even sincere in speaking out against this remedial measure. That's my point.
To quote the Wall Street Journal editorial page from yesterday, that American life and human depravity don't always bend to government dictates. And right now you're at a situation where you can't have a reasonable conversation about the Second Amendment and guns in America without you being shamed into taking the very far left liberal position and basically being called a murderer yourself, or somebody who supports murder. And they fail to acknowledge just basic statistics about gun violence in this country. 27% of public mass shootings involved assault rifles from 1999 to 2013. That of all the homicides in the United States last year, 3% of people were killed with rifles, 374 people. There were 656 homicides committed by hand, fist, or feet. So, again, those are the statistics.
Right, and don't forget the statistics in Chicago. The city that has the strictest gun laws, had 530 homicides this year.
Right.
Year to date.
Yeah. And then this is just not coming out in the conversation. Instead, it's just, again, focusing on this piece of equipment as though that's the be-all, end-all.
Well, I think a lot of the focus on this is because maybe there is something that can be done about it where they feel like it could be bipartisan. I mean, you have the NRA coming out. You had even Sarah Huckabee Sanders yesterday was saying the president wants to be part of the conversations. Maybe it's the start of something. But I think to Dagan's point, every time someone says something needs to be done by this, they immediately get accused of, are you saying that we need to change, you know, our rights here? And that's not the case. But something does have to change. I mean, there has to be more regulations.
The conundrum, Dagan.
But there are regulations.
There are.
There are regulations. Assault rifles are essentially banned in this country.
That's right.
Fully automatic
Right.
assault rifles. Since 1986, it's illegal to possess one as a civilian. Anyone manufactured after 1986. And in fact, those fully automatic weapons have been heavily regulated by the feds since the 1930s. Dylan Roof, the shooter and the Mother Emanuel Church, should not have gotten a gun. It was a foul up by the FBI investigator. He had pled guilty to drug possession and they, missed it. So we have federal, like a government that can't currently enforce the regulations that are already on the books.
So is it an enforcement problem then? Is that what you're getting at?
But there's other issues, too.
If the regulations are ineffective, then what is the counterpart?
That's my argument. That's my argument, that before you layer on more regulations, you got to figure out how do you enforce the ones that are already in place.
I think this is a really important point that you make. We're going to keep talking about it. Gillian, thank you very much for weighing in this morning. Thanks. Gillian Turner.